The runway. The runway.
And I think he's right about a lot of it.
And the way he explains it, and from his perspective,
Yeah.
during he writes that in the book basically. It's like
Yeah.
his
What
own
is-
experiences, what he went throughout his life
Yeah.
in terms of like gold crashing
Yeah.
and all that other stuff. It made him into the person and funded.
I mean,
his,
Gold Bugs and us, we're all on the same page except for Peter Schiff.
But no, wait, Peter Schiff's own
He's coming
family
around.
is gold
Yeah.
Bitcoin, but like so
Yeah.
it's like
What's Larry's background?
He manages a fund, of gold fund, which is like the most boring thing ever, right? But he recognized, and he's been doing this before Bitcoin even existed, I believe, and he recognized what the problem was, and it was always the best solution that he could always come up with was gold. But now, I mean, he'll even say the best solution. He's like, all you need to know is that they're just increasing the base money supply over time, and they're going to continue to do that.
it's
And-
baked in the cake.
And
Just how Bitcoin supply issuance is.
yeah, and he
That's
said
basically this.
the solution is
do
the
you-
best solution is Bitcoin. The second best solution is gold.
Do you think that Bitcoin creates a new dynamic to where it'll incentivize the moneymakers to not make the money?
What do you mean?
Like, well, now we have Bitcoin. So before you can just print, and really didn't have anything that would compete against it. But now that there's Bitcoin,
I think you're right. I think that they're hesitant to print
you're right.
because they know that there's this thing out there. Like I honestly believe the Biden administration was trying to kill Bitcoin.
Oh,
I think that they were trying to like come after, they're coming after the exchanges. They're coming after people that were in the space. They were arresting people. They
Bitcoin companies, they were
everything.
like choke point 1, choke
Everything.
point 2.0. Those that really put like a strangle on a lot of these
and
Bitcoin
then Trump got
companies.
in and he's like, look,
Like they had to leave. They couldn't get funding.
Yeah.
They couldn't grow.
they were just making it hard.
for
right.
people to like succeed in this space. So a lot of people, when the barrier to entry is higher, right? They're not going to be able to.
They don't want
take
to fight that battle.
Or when there's a chance you can go to jail. For
yeah, I mean, they're putting
or
people
the
in jail.
chance exactly.
So then Trump got in, and then he's, the SEC is like lifting all these investigations and all this stuff. And so, but I think you're right. I think like they're in a bad spot right now because if they print again to stimulate a slowing economy,
Likewise,
they know that Bitcoin just follows money supply. If you look at a chart of the M2 money supply in Bitcoin, it just follows. So if they increase the money supply, like the global money supply to stimulate the economy because shit's slowing down so much, Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million, right? And they don't necessarily want that because they don't have control of it. And it gives too much power to the plebes. Like they don't want that. And that's my thing about AI is I think that AI, are we on right now?
We are live.
Okay, because I just think that AI is like, it's almost the antithesis of Bitcoin. It's easy answers. You don't have to think for yourself. It's relying on the internet for everything, your life.
You don't have to think for yourself.
I think like okay, let's put it this way. You have to think less for yourself. Like you can write like, hey, I'm going to write a letter to my girlfriend. I want to tell her this, this, and this. And then AI comes up with this, ChatGPT comes up with this thing. And it's just this less reliance on your own self.
See, I look at it differently. Do you use AI or no?
No.
So you've never used it?
No.
Okay. So your view on it is something you never used.
But am I wrong on that?
I think you are, because I think you're right, but you're also wrong.
Okay.
So you're right. The people that lazily use AI,
Yeah.
they're just lazy people. They're lazy minded. They don't ask.
Right, but
the
isn't
right-
it easier to be lazy with AI rather
it's
than
easier
not?
to be lazy in your food, your everything. That's just
Yeah.
it's part of life, right?
Yeah.
People are going to do the laziest thing, and the
Right.
people that do things like AI lazy,
Yeah.
the way like their experience with AI, it's going to be limited. They're not going to prompt it as great as someone that's really using AI and learning
Yeah.
like, hey, the more direct and more time I spend directing it to do what I want it to do, not just saying, hey, write this letter, the better it is. And like, but
I see what you're saying. That's
you
fair.
need to prompt it. And
But
there's, like,
Yeah.
I get that. But I also think like,
and that's hard to do. It's hard to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
To like, it's hard to. It's lazy people don't want like it's
yeah,
a mental thing.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm just gonna do this.
yeah,
But like even me sometimes. But when I do prompt it, it's
Yeah.
like, yo, this shit's amazing.
yeah. I know. I think that's the tendency to be like, and I'm sure that it has some really awesome features. I mean, I know it does from what I've talked to people about it. But when you think about what it actually is versus what Bitcoin stands for, which is, more reliance on yourself, self-sovereignty, making the sacrifices now for a better future, giving up sort of ease of life now for a better future through saving with Bitcoin. AI is sort of like, you can have it all now. The answers, the right, direction, whatever it is, like it's just easy. And they're computing for energy and they're computing for power. They're computing for data centers, right? And I think that Bitcoin, the problem that this establishment has with Bitcoin largely is that it gives too much power for people over their lives, as opposed to being able to put, control everybody. And I honestly think like, the reason that the IMF and what's the Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum,
WEF.
the reason that they don't like Bitcoin is because they're trying, like one of the things about Bitcoin that's powerful is if your country outlaws it or they become too oppressive, you can go to another country, but if there's a one world government, you can't really escape that. If the one world government hates Bitcoin, wherever you go, you're screwed. So this pushback to nationalism is good for Bitcoin because it gets rid of the one world government, and there are going to be countries, El Salvador and others, that are going to be adopting Bitcoin where you can escape if they're trying to crack down on your private property. And so I think that there's this untangling and unwinding of, because Trump's not a big WEF guy. Biden was, huge. All the Democrats typically are very into the one world sort of alliance. And I think that Bitcoin is a huge threat to that because now it's decentralized. You can go wherever you need to go to be able to access and use your private property.
Yeah, so what I agree, but what do you mean by like, what are you trying to get at?
Oh, well, I kind of went off on a rant, but I think that AI is, like, wait till it starts telling people how to be a good citizen.
Yeah.
Or like, what if AI comes up with like, well, Bitcoin is actually, there are lots of bad narratives about Bitcoin out there. What if AI, you get someone, who doesn't know anything about it. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a money used by fraudulent schemers to circumnavigate the laws of the financial laws of the country. Right now you get somebody who has done no research, wants a quick answer, and they've been totally misinformed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. That's never happened to me.
I know, but
So,
that's an
I've used
example.
AI, but like, so I've literally asked that question and I didn't get that response. So it's like, but if that was its response, and like, it's like, well, what the fuck?
That's
Like,
one example. I mean, it could be a number.
What are
of-
your thoughts, bro?
I think it's going to change the way obviously it's going to change the way we think, but now that this type of information is readily available, I think a formal education will, or a deeper understanding on a certain subject will be hold more weight to it. So
Which
if you,
means people in the future are gonna be way more smarter.
I think so, because you have a background, and you
Yeah.
might know that background and the dynamics that go along with that particular subject very well. Whereas if people just start randomly answering questions or have information based on AI, it's going to be kind of obvious, like, oh well. And then once you ask the deeper questions or the questions that are more connected to it, I think prompters, that's going to be a whole new. We're going to see positions opening up with companies that are going to be prompting, how to prompt AI, how to work, like you were saying.
Yeah, use AI tools to
Use
properly
it as a tool. It's like people are gonna use it for good and for
I
bad.
mean, so another
Same with
example
Bitcoin.
that's not Bitcoin related was like friends and I were talking about leasing some office space for a business idea that we had, and one of them went to AI and they looked like, what are the real estate prices in Naples? And they gave like the most ridiculous pricing. And being in my backstate in real estate, in commercial real estate, there are intricacies and nuances that humans know that the computers don't know.
Right.
Like, for instance, there are different submarkets within Naples that have different rental prices, which seems pretty obvious, but AI didn't pick up on that, right?
Well,
So now-
what was the the prompt? If you would have made it like more detailed,
Give me the submarket, different submarket
Or you say,
rental rates in Naples.
or I would say, hey, just let you know, my background is
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience. I'm educated
Yeah.
on it, and so you let them know who you are. So
Yeah.
like they're gonna answer you back in that
Yeah.
level. Because sometimes like, hey, rewrite this as if you were a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Rewrite this if I was
Yeah.
in middle school. So
Yeah,
it's-
no, I totally hear you guys. It's all about incentives, right? We know that from being in Bitcoin. It's
And-
all about the incentives. The incentives, I think, of AI are to rely more and more heavily. That's us right now, because we're in this phase of like transitioning from human knowledge to computer knowledge. But the incentive is to not do the work.
Of course.
And the incentive
in
with Bitcoin is
everything.
to do the work.
But that's not just in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's like a life lesson right there.
Yeah.
Like working out.
Yeah.
Like there's a quick fix, go fucking
Ozempic.
on Ozempic, and then you know what happens with, and this is something I always like to talk about. I just told my dad about it. He's a little overweight.
Yeah.
So he's talking about Ozempic. I'm like, Dad, you realize one of the things Ozempic does, and one of the reasons why it's so like good at losing weight, you're not just losing like fat, you're losing your actual muscle.
Right.
And as you get older, what's harder to create is actually
Yeah.
muscle. So
and,
you're
and
losing
the incentive
weight.
and the incentive is to not work out.
Yeah,
the incentive is to just
not to
take
work out, and then but also like what is
and
your
eat whatever
quality-
you want.
yeah, and then the quality of your life as you get
Yeah.
older and you can't build or muscle and you don't have that muscle and it's hard to maintain it, and you're literally signing up just so you can lose weight to be unhealthier, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're gonna need them for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Or you could just change your fucking diet,
Right.
stop eating.
Right.
But the thing is that takes time, that takes dedication, that takes discipline,
Right.
and you have to commit to it, which no one does because most people don't want to do, or some
Right.
people do, but most people don't want to do the
And
work.
all I'm saying is I think AI incentivizes you to go to less reliant on your own habits, your own intellect, your own research.
It will definitely will for some people.
And think about future generations too. Like kids that are going to high school, and like my niece was here, she's, oh, I just used, if I have a quick question, they're not giving any
But
thought.
the thing is, what would you? All right, I agree, kind of, but also I disagree. Like, if you didn't have AI, what would you have done previously right before this? You would just go on Google
Yeah.
and you would literally ask that same question,
Yep.
and it would do the same thing. But all Google really did was they were a middleman that connected you to
I
that,
agree.
right?
I agree.
So we were already in there. It's
We
just
just-
now that is more efficient.
It's hyperspeed now, so we're gonna
Correct.
get dumber and dumber really fast.
Some people will, but the other side of that is like think about. You don't think Elon Musk has been using AI to get this smart, and he's not. You think the way he's using AI, how much think about how smart he's gotten from AI.
Well, it
because-
depends on what you view as smart. I would say some of the things that he does is not necessarily smart.
I mean, Like
Depends on what you think smart is. I mean,
going to space, being able
yeah, I
to
mean
like,
that's no, I mean
That's-
but that's his background sort of.
well, who else is doing it though?
Yeah.
No one. So like, I'm just saying. I think. What are your thoughts?
Well, what's the connection you're making with like AI and Bitcoin? Like,
I think my statement was that for discussion was that they are opposed to each other in terms of everything they stand for.
so opposite.
They're opposed to each other.
Well, because the way I see it
And I
is-
think they're competing for like the direction that we go as a society. I think one is freedom. I think Bitcoin is freedom and self-sovereignty and relying on yourself for lots of different things. And I think AI could be a control tactic of the population.
So with that's garbage in, garbage out. So when it comes to AI, you're essentially taking the information that's out there from whoever, wherever.
Well, you're taking it from the internet.
Well, the internet. Okay, so now when you're talking Bitcoin or blockchain or this new technology, it's not going to just take information in. Once you're connected, there's something called the last mile problem, which is getting the information from physical or off data form to data form.
Yeah.
And there's things like DAWNs. I don't know if you're familiar with DAWNs,
No.
decentralized Oracle networks. There's companies out there that are building or individuals that are creating nodes that are coming to a consensus with one another to validate that information. So it's taking validated information from off chain and it's bringing it on chain. So I don't think that AI is necessarily. I mean, it's going to play a role in some way, but there's other
I think it's
technology.
going to be
being-
opposite. I think the AIs are going to start using Bitcoin.
Well,
Sure.
if Bitcoin's the base layer, then I don't have a problem with
Well,
AI,
that's
but-
what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It-
It's
well,
going to because all roads lead, including
Yeah.
AI. They're not going to
Yeah.
solve Bitcoin's problem, or they can't break the hat. Like, even no matter what happens with like the technology, because the 2 week. This is something a lot of people don't realize is, and we obviously know it in terms of Bitcoin, but every 2 weeks the difficulty adjustment happens, and what that means is like as computer power gets better and faster at solving the proof of work equation, what that means is like it gets either harder or easier based because the goal is to be around 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So these AIs, they even like let's say they just got way smarter. Well, the proof of like the adjustment will take
Yeah,
place.
maybe
in
they
2
work
weeks.
together in a good way.
and they're gonna buy Bitcoin because how do we know this is a legit AI?
Yeah.
AI will use tokens to communicate value with one another. So that's, before we just had data transferred, information exchange, but now it's value exchange. So yeah, they're going to take that dynamic and use it in ways we've never imagined possible. And I
Yeah.
think that's where this whole new wave, this new era comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, encryption is going to go, hand in hand with AI because one essentially validates the other, and without that, there will be spam and deepfakes like never seen before. And so, in a way, though they complement each other, but I just have this tweet pulled up here from Elon, and it's a bit controversial because it's almost transhumanism in a way, but at the same time, it's inevitable. So, I kind of understand where he's coming from, but what are your thoughts on this?
So it says, as I mentioned several years ago, it increasingly appears that humanity is a biological bootloader for digital super intelligence. So what's he saying? Basically, like we're just leading to AI ruling the world.
Where what turns on data essentially, like
Like it's inevitable, but
Yeah, I think it might be
With-
saying like we're the
without
we're
us
the-
that doesn't exist. Like
Yeah.
there's no. I
but
don't
it
think-
exists. It just hasn't existed yet. So it was inevitable to become. I think he might be saying. I don't know.
Well, if in a way, once we digitize everything, what faster way to travel than at the speed of light, right? With things like, fiber, but once we achieve quantum computing and whatnot, and we can essentially have, no limitations to consciousness, that's going to end up being a whole new paradigm. But let's not get too far ahead. I think this comment made here by Javid is a very relevant take. Do you want to read that?
Sure. It says humans aren't just a bootloader for AI. Reducing all of human history, morality, creativity, and consciousness to a sleeping stone for code misses the point. We're not tools for machines. We're the only ones asking why we exist. AI is impressive, but it's still soulless. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And that's something I was thinking as you guys were talking about the technology. AI is essentially, it doesn't have that that, I mean, it can artificially make it, but when it comes to that original thinking or original like thought or unique thought, that's where we come in. And I think that
They
that's
need
all-
us to prompt them.
Yeah, and when it comes to art,
for now, right? I think his comment is actually really. I think what he's saying is like, there's something unique about humans that
Yeah, free spirit,
your soul that
free will.
all those things that are what makes us human, and if we surrender those things to robots, who knows where this goes? And I agree with
I
that
think we've
statement.
already have been doing that.
I mean, the difference between
I just don't.
Bitcoin and AI is I, a human, tell my Bitcoin what to do,
You tell your AI what to do, though. I think you're missing.
and AI
I literally
tells
s-
me what to do.
I think we'll also see like a
I
rise.
tell my AI what to do.
We'll see a rise in like the analog world, not because the digital is going to get so big that analog or non-digital is going to become more of a popular thing. The
That's where I'm going.
paintings,
That's
the-
where I'm going. I want to get a farm, and I want to be self-sustainable.
You know what
and
you
I want
also
to get off
need?
the grid.
You need an old fucking Nokia phone that you can play Snake on and Neon.
I'd love that, man. Or just not be on a phone at all. You want to talk to me? Come to my house. Come to my farm. We'll get
Fuck
you.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I just read that the creator of Signal apparently does these nomad adventures where he just goes completely without a cell phone, without any internet connection, and goes on these huge adventures all over the world and essentially hikes. So I thought, okay, that's cool. Here's a software developer who just unplugs for months at a time.
Yeah, there's a reason that all these people are so lonely and so depressed and despondent in this digital age. It's because you're missing the humanity part of
Yeah.
being a human.
You know what's funny? You saying that, bro? I met someone that I've met, like he's my neighbor, and he literally has real fucking like conversations with his AI that he should be having with real people. And
Yeah.
it's so I personally, I would never like. I think he's overdoing it and overusing it, and he's doing it, and he's not.
I mean, how
using it the
sad
right
is
way.
that, bro?
It is sad, and that's what I'm saying. But not some people like Bitcoin's for everyone. Some people will use it for good. Some people will use it for bad. Same with fiat
I don't
money.
care if he uses the Bitcoin.
No,
What
I'm
I
just
care if I have to use the AI.
You don't
Like,
have to.
right.
But I see like the
Well,
net-
for now, until everything is like,
you're already using AI, bro. Like your phone is already AI.
I'm
It's just
on
not
my
as-
way to the farm, buddy.
Your
Soon
farm,
you
I
will only be able
guaran-
to get in contact with me.
over under if his farm uses AI at all.
No, I'm gonna have a tractor. I'm gonna have some cattle. I'm gonna have some chickens. I'm gonna feed myself.
AI chickens.
And y'all, yeah.
When's the last time you guys disconnected, like got off the grid?
I try to do it. It's hard. But I do it. I go.
And for how long?
You go a couple weeks and people start freaking out because they can't get a hold of you.
I
That's
went-
the only reason I don't, is because people that care about me are like, yo, you need to get on. You need to keep your phone on so that we know. Because when I go off the grid, I go to like Montana and fly fishing in the middle of
Netflix
nowhere.
documentary style shit.
Yeah, like out there. And so people that are close to me are like, you can't just do that because we need to know that you're okay. You're out there with like grizzly bears and shit. And so I understand that. But then I have my phone on and then I check the Bitcoin price or I check Twitter because I'm curious. So I don't really ever go off
I
the
think
grid.
that's part of the experience is to, get over that fear of losing someone for 2 weeks. Like just understand. And it used to take longer than that to cross the
That's
big
the crazy
pond.
part is people are like, yo, you need to respond. I'm like, back in the day,
Right.
you wouldn't hear from somebody and you didn't care. You're like, that's just normal. But now because everything is instant.
It's a
Do you know it?
detox.
Or it's like when you're texting someone or like, yeah, it's like, I know they fucking read it.
Yeah.
They always have their
Everyone-
fucking phone.
everyone
Why
has
haven't
a
they
phone.
responded?
Why aren't they
They were
responding?
What the
typing,
fuck?
they stopped typing.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
typed. They stopped typing. They fucking
Now they're-
they left me on fucking red. What the
Right.
fuck?
Now
is
they're
going
manipulating me. Now I hate them.
On? Oh, they're
Th-
fucking
th-
playing
that's
games.
Part,
Yeah.
That's part of the detox. I think that's an important part of disconnecting. The last time I did it was in 2017 for, I think it was like 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
I went to Baja California Sur in Mexico. Punta Abrojo is a small, tiny little fisherman town.
Yeah.
I felt recharged. Like I felt rejuvenated.
Yeah.
I felt like
Yeah.
something happened to me. There's no cell phone service, no nothing. A generator if you wanted electricity.
You
at
felt like
night.
being a human was a different experience.
And imagine if
probably.
you lived like that.
I felt more energized.
You felt
to be
probably
back.
more present.
You felt
Yeah,
more
was
human. And imagine if
connected.
you lived like that and you told
The days
people
were
you can't get a
longer.
hold of me. And they would say,
life
well,
was life was longer.
if,
Yeah.
if you want to get a hold of me, you're going to have to come knock on my front door and have a sit down conversation with me like a real human.
You have to gonna take your fucking time
Yeah.
to go somewhere.
Right.
So it takes your time, which is again the only thing more scarce than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Is what?
Your time.
Your time.
And
That's
then,
the only thing. And how you spend your time is how you live your
and
life.
then you're showing that person that you're really important to me because I'm taking the time
I'm
to go to
spending
your,
my most scarce
Yeah.
asset in the entire
More
universe.
than Bitcoin, more than anything.
More than
More than
anything.
anything.
So how you spend your time, and it's one of the biggest things. Like, and like Bitcoin has taught me, like time is like such a scarce
Yeah.
asset.
Yeah.
So it's really important, like what we do with our time, and not just like. And that's the thing with like these AIs. they
ChatGPT,
can-
send a message to my mom so I don't have
They
to
can
talk to
take
her.
over your, like your time, and all of a sudden you're like, "What the fuck am I doing with my time?" So being disconnected is so important, but and it's very hard to do, and it's only getting harder to do. I've been disconnected in a minute, but I do like fast and shit, but like that's
good.
but like and that's like a food, the same thing but for food, and our bodies need that.
I think it's important we do that more often. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the next time. And I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think we'll see like a rise in that disconnection. People will start disappearing for a few
And
weeks.
they'll be Bitcoiners. They won't be
Yeah.
these other people because they understand these things.
Right.
Yeah, to that point, what we're discussing essentially is adopting, right? We have
AI probably made this graphic, by the way.
yeah, it did. Right. So this
Nick's
kinda,
not even a real human. He's AI.
like in the last 50 years, we've experienced so much innovation,
AI is a
such
science guy.
rapid, integration of technology into our daily lives that we haven't really adapted and evolved to have a wholesome, sustainable relationship with this tool. And so I think this meme here kind of captures that idea how things initially are, they're essentially, what's the term? They're resisted, right? Like AI right now, there's a lot of fear that, it could have a negative impact, but inevitably it's the tool and it's how we use it, right? It's how we adopt it. So, here,
But also, like if you think of it in that capacity, and also like with the wheel, right? Wheels have
read
killed people.
read the meme.
But
Read-
wheels in
I'll read
general
it.
have killed people, right?
It says the top one is, look, everyone, I just invented a wheel. Just think of all the great uses. We'll be able to move things from one place to another. It will help with construction and all sorts of things we can only dream of. And then the next one is no big deal. It can't even auto steer. Scaling it will never achieve speeds of 60 miles per hour. Bad people will use it, do bad things. Only the rich will need wheels or will have wheels. Wheels will be used for war. What could go wrong? It will take the jobs of people who carry things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like so, like in the wheel, right? The
It's
wheel
true.
has the wheel has brought like,
technology is deflationary. It's
but,
true.
But like the wheel, right? People can use it for good. A lot of
Yeah.
good has come out of the wheel, but also there's been a lot of bad. Like there's people that have been in car accidents because they're on wheels. Like so, there's like bad things happen with good things. But like that invention changed the world.
As long as we are in control of the computers, I have no problem. But when the computers start having control over us, that's where the transhumanism thing kind of comes in. And I don't have a problem with us using tools, but I think that we have to maintain our authority over everything else on this earth as humans, because otherwise it could get dicey for us.
all right, we need to go back to a more long time preference mentality, right? We've seen corporate, profit chasing rationale be applied to nearly every
Everything.
emerging industry, right? Everything from our food to our, our attention span, like it's all being essentially it's essentially all being tokenized and sold. And if we don't strike a better balance, then yeah, we will end up being
Yeah.
controlled by these
Slaves.
So
technologies.
you know what? You
Yeah.
said a word that I'd like to talk about, if that's okay with you. He said long time preference. So what is that word, and what does that thing mean to you?
Long time preference
Yeah.
is less change.
Less change?
Yeah.
What do you mean by less change?
Well, having something for a long time as a preference versus having things be different in a shorter period of time. I think it comes back down to human nature, the path of least resistance. Humans don't like change, essentially. I mean, some do, but some for some things. But for the most part, they don't like change. And it's this. It's not. Things may not be stable. Things may feel rocky at first, but then once everything settles, it's easier to see where we, go from there or
Mm.
where we can grow.
So long time preference, I understand where you're coming from. Less change, more consistency.
Yeah.
Right. What about you?
Do you mean low time preference or
Long time. They're the same thing.
Yeah, I know. Just making
So-
sure that you know. Okay, so low time preference is the ability to give up what you want today and sacrifice what you need and want today for a better future. Bitcoin incentivizes this because when you save in Bitcoin over time, you're not you switch. The incentive for Bitcoin is to hold it as long as you can.
Yep.
And as you hold it, the longer you hold it, the more you increase your wealth and your sovereignty and your private property, right? And so it flips the whole society on its head, because right now the incentive is to spend now and worry about it later. Consumerism, right? Go into debt now to buy your Uber Eats. Go into debt to buy your car. Go into debt to buy your house. Go into debt so that you become a slave. You're just a slave to the system. Whereas Bitcoin is, don't ever give up your Bitcoin. Save whatever you can in Bitcoin. And then one day when you have enough Bitcoin relative to the price of a house, you just buy it.
Yep.
If that's important to you. If it's not, then hold on to your Bitcoin. And this is that is called saving. And I think a lot of the reason that we see so many issues today, like, Elon always talks about, Elon's a weird one for me because, he sort of has Bitcoin, but he doesn't really like it or doesn't understand it. I don't know which one, but the reason we have, in my opinion, this population problem has everything to do with the fact that nobody can afford anything.
Yep.
You cannot support a family of 4. And if you're 25 years old, you have to be making
or you
$300,000 or $400,000, to live in like a decent city. And so no one is going to say, yeah, you know what? I'm basically not getting by on my own right now because of the fiat system and I can't pay for anything. Why don't I just go have 4 children and a family? No one's saying that.
Yeah, it becomes a huge. Your family becomes a burden.
Yeah,
and
you
life
can't even support yourself. You're gonna go support a family. That's why the population is collapsing, is because inflation is going up.
It all
so
comes back
high.
to the money.
It
all
always
comes-
comes back to the money, and that's why people are lonely, is because they
they've
don't
been
have
sold,
families.
and what they've been sold, and what was the American dream was actually more of an American scheme.
It's a scheme. It's
Because,
a way
like,
to enslave you.
What you basically were describing back in the day is what our parents
Right, they could
were
afford a
they could
house on a
afford
one
to
salary.
because inflation hasn't taken its roots.
You
as
could
far,
save in dollars
right?
back then.
But over now, it's like you buy something. Then it's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. The
Yes.
interest rates were low, and not only were the interest rates low, the amount that the volume and the interest combined was like, all right, $100. 1% of $100 is $1.
Yeah.
1% of 200 million though is like, so as
Yeah.
the value of it goes up.
Your income needed to keep up with inflation,
which it
and you
didn't. So it was funny, like when I asked like low time, long time preference, you ended up coming to like the money. It's
Yeah.
just, but I feel like in every aspect, in anything, not just money and food and everything, the
Yeah.
short time preference has spread its tentacles in everything.
Right.
Like it's a thing that some people, like,
Because if
see
you
it,
track it back down the rabbit hole, it comes down to money.
money and time.
Yeah, and I don't just mean like it comes down to Bitcoin. I mean it comes down to your ability
Yep.
to pay for things.
It's it's business, right? And I like sorry for cutting you off,
Yeah.
but like think of a restaurant. You're opening up a restaurant and you take pride in not using seed oils and you take pride in having healthy, clean ingredients. So your restaurant the first year, 2 years, you're like by the book, you're crushing it and everything. But all of a sudden it's like, well, how can I become more? How can I make more?
Yeah.
And they have these line items like, well, look, this oil, if I just sacrifice this oil to this oil, our profit now goes from this to this. No one will notice, right?
It's funny because I had these conversations with and I got to jump off here in about 8 minutes, but you have what it comes down to is inflationary money versus deflationary money. And you talk to some of these really, like I had a conversation the other day with someone who graduated from, UPenn, PhD in economics, and was just throwing the idea out there of why can't we have a money that is deflationary, meaning that everything goes down in price relative to it.
We can.
Well, he didn't. He couldn't even grasp the concept. This dude has a PhD in economics. They have been so entrenched in the current system.
Yeah, he's Canadian as fuck.
He,
Or
he-
no, I mean yeah.
people. This is, I think, Larry Lepard says this. I think is like people in the system cannot think outside of the system.
Yeah.
They can't even comprehend a world where if you just hold on to the money, over time everything goes down in price compared to it, and
Well, it's the
you be-
opposite of everything they've ever
it
fucking
flips the world upside
experienced.
down, which is why there's such a war on Bitcoin.
But which is also why when you meet someone that's into Bitcoin, you all of a sudden know you have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
that means you into Bitcoin. That means you've learned about this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
We probably have a lot of values that aligned. And then when you meet someone that hasn't taken any time to learn about Bitcoin, they're not bad people, but a lot of their values.
Well,
just
I've
don't
noticed those
align.
people too are also some of the most prideful people I've ever
Correct,
met.
but that's the thing. 'cause
I've noticed that. Like
Bitcoin's a humility test.
It is a humility test. It's like, hey, there's this thing called Bitcoin, and the stronger reaction they have against it, the more prideful they are, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
in my experience, because everybody that's ever taken the time to be like, maybe I don't know about this thing. Maybe
How many people do you know that read the Bitcoin Standard and didn't become a Bitcoin? You know what I mean? Like, name one.
I mean, you have to really be prideful to read that whole thing and be like, they don't have it. I mean, there's a difference between
Because
being
people aren't going to spend the time.
anti-Bitcoin and apathetic about it. If you're apathetic about it, I get it. Okay, you don't know if it's going to work. It is speculative. We are betting on it working. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. But to be anti-Bitcoin, to be like, this thing is terrible, and be a fiat maxi, there's something wrong in your brain. I mean, you have to be like not a good person, in my opinion.
Well, it's hard. And once it's one of those things, and also I agree, because once you learned about it and you realize someone hasn't, it's like, bro, wake the fuck up.
Yeah,
Like, have you paid any attention to like anything?
yeah.
And have you like, it's fine. Like, but it's also like, I know someone that isn't into Bitcoin or is anti-Bitcoin. They've spent 0
Yeah.
minutes
Yeah.
doing
There's
any
this guy I
research.
told about. He's like, I was like, have you Bitcoin could fix a lot of these. I don't trust it. I said, name one attribute of Bitcoin. I don't.
Yeah, what's the Lightning Network?
It's
What's
a
the
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they literally know nothing about it,
It's-
but they don't trust it.
It's a Ponzi scheme, but you know what it is? You know what they say is that it's a Ponzi scheme, but you know what the real Ponzi scheme is?
The system they're living in.
The Federal Reserve, the system they're currently living in, and it's just like,
Well, they're just taking the
It's
two
a mind- it's a
sentences
mind- yeah.
that the mainstream media is mentioning about it for the most part. Because
But they need the propaganda to be strong to keep this system going. And so these people, like I've really realized by being in Bitcoin for as long as I have, is that the power of propaganda is so freaking strong. It's so
yeah.
strong. Even the most
oh,
muy fuerte.
smart people, very smart, educated people are being propagandized, and they believe it. And it's like, wow, this thing is powerful.
Absolutely
I gotta
right.
jump.
Yeah, get out of
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
All right, let's close out on reacting just quickly to this. If you got to run, go ahead. No, I understand if you got to go. But hopefully Trump announces us ending the Fed or the IRS. Do you guys see any of that coming? Let's hear it.
That'd be dope as fuck. Later, bro.
That would truly be Liberation Day. Take it easy, brother.
I mean,
I appreciate
this
it.
is life.
You're going to be very happy very soon. And
Yeah, I'll jump in with you.
All right.
Oh, freezing a second. This
it's not on X, bro.
Let's
Man.
see if I can find the actual stream.
wonderful,
You go
everything.
to like
but they
RBSN
banned
on X. it'll
American
find it.
beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone. They won't take any of our beef. They don't want it because they don't want it to affect their farmers. And you know what? I don't blame them, but we're doing the same thing right now, starting
Whoa,
about
Kevin.
midnight tonight, I would say.
All too different.
And China charges
Little bit.
American rice farmers an overquota, it's called, a tariff rate of 65%. South Korea charges 50. Actually, they charge different from 50% to 513%. And Japan, our friend, charges us 700%. But that's because they don't want us selling rice, another thing. Who can blame them, Madam Secretary? Agriculture, great job you did on eggs, by the way. The egg prices came down 50%. You got them down 50%. Once we got involved, they were going through the sky. The egg prices, they were going through the sky. And you did a fantastic job. Now we have lots of eggs and they're much cheaper, down about 59% now, and they're going down further. We charge 2.8% for so many things that other countries are charging 200%, 300%, then 400% for. If imposing tariffs and protective barriers made nations poor, then every country on earth would be racing to eliminate these policies, and China would be the first on line. They run a very strong country, but they're not first in line, and the American people are paying a very big price. From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our
Income
government.
tax was created the same
Then
time the
in
Federal Reserve was created.
1929, it all came to a very abrupt
No,
end with the
I
Great
don't.
Depression,
Is that what he just said?
and it would have
1913.
never happened if they had stayed with the tariff
I know income
policy.
tax
It would
was
have been a much different
largely
story.
pushed
They
because of
tried
World
to
War
bring
II,
back
I believe.
tariffs to
World War
save
One.
our country, but it was
Matt,
gone. It
where you
was
at? We
gone.
need
It was
you.
too late. Nothing could have
From what I
been done. It took
understand,
years and
they
years to
added
get out of that
Amendment
depression,
16
far longer than even
in order
FDR
to justify
had that
income
office
taxes,
right over there
which
for a long
previously they were
period of
actually ruled
time. The
unconstitutional.
ramp system,
Yeah.
that's rather intricate,
Still
was
are.
built because
They
of
technically are.
him. And
Yeah.
every
To know
time
how to
you
use-
walk up, you
They
think of
amended
him,
the
and he did
Constitution
a great
to
job in
justify
many
it.
ways,
It's like
but
if
it
somebody used
lasted
a
long
soft
beyond his
fork.
terms.
Like
as
some
you
people are
know.
living on the soft fork
But
version
it's
of the
not too
Constitution.
late
Some people are living on the
any
hard
longer.
fork.
Oh, that's a
We're
cool
going
way to
to
put it. I
start
like that.
being
Yeah.
smart, and we're going to start being very
I'm gonna
wealthy
pull up a
again. We're going to
couple
be wealthy as a country
tweets
because
on
they've
this
taken so much of our wealth
because I
away
think
from us. We're not going to let that happen.
I think
We
Craig
truly
Shapiro
can
is
be
reacting to it
very
in real
wealthy. We
time.
can be so
I'll
much
be right back.
wealthier than any country. It's not even believable, but we're getting smart. Nearly a century later, in the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay. And then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people, and we're going to take care of our people first. And I'm sorry to say that. And today we're standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first.
What's this, Paul?
So this
In
is
sleepy Joe
something
Biden's
that the
last
White
year
House
in
just
office, the
posted.
United States
Apparently,
hemorrhaged
these are our reciprocal
100,000
tariffs,
manufacturing
and it
jobs,
shows
and
the
the number
tariffs
was
that
going
these other countries
through the
charge us
roof
and
at
what we're going to
levels
charge
never
them in
seen
return.
before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made. It was a horror show. I was able to terminate it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst deal, worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the
So
very
in the
beginning
left
of
column,
NAFTA, our
it's
country
kind of
lost
small from here.
90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting text on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that.
Yeah, let me see here. Wow, the White House posted a bunch of graphs here, essentially announcing, wow, it's mostly 10% for most countries here.
Which is like, but that's for 10%. That's like 5 times more than probably what they were getting charged.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so let's see here.
39% to Iraq. That stands out.
That would be interesting to see what they were being charged before.
Yeah.
Too.
I would love to see that.
Looks like
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. It would be nice to know
Yeah, like
the rate
how
if
much-
there was any.
Do you think that creates an opportunity for these countries that are in the 10 percentile, like, or in the 10% category, like a change in?
yeah, it
import duty?
incentivizes people to start something there more so than where they are.
Yeah.
But it also, but there's quality of life. Those places looks like they're not as nice and livable or
Maybe bigger opportunity.
more opportunity. So
Yeah.
in the future, which is basically what it's all about. Um,
Yeah, we want to buy low, sell high.
I like the tariffs. I think it's going to work out. I don't think it's going to work out like perfectly in like the first like couple weeks, but I don't look at anything within the first couple weeks. I always look at it as a longer time.
Well, no matter what change happens, we're going to see there's going to be like that downward or that uncertainty at the beginning where
course.
people are not going to spend as much money or they're going to park their money in certain places until things kind of like level out.
Look
But
at Trump. He's a fucking G.
So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to
Phoenix,
get their
Arizona.
approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that.
So I'm reading that stock market futures are surging because of this announcement.
Yeah.
And people are saying, here in the comments, essentially that it's pretty much just that every other country was ripping us off. And we know that. And it's about damn time that stops.
Well, it's not even just in ripping us off. If you really think about what's happening because of the fact that they're ripping us off. And this is probably why a lot of people that are very wealthy don't like the idea of tariffs at the same time. So let's play this scenario out. You have a business. Your business moved offshores because you could take advantage of the tariff policy, right? Now you're gonna have to still have that company out there, but now you're gonna have to pay more to have a company that's not based in America. So I guarantee you, a lot of these companies are actually American-owned people that are just taking advantage of the tariff policy, and now that thing is, they can still benefit from it. They just can't benefit as much as they were benefiting from it. And obviously, it's not just Americans that are taking advantage of it; it's other people as well. But think about it; it's a money game. It's an incentive based.
Yeah, and it works both ways because now other companies will be incentivized to come here and have a
Correct.
distribution center in the U.S.,
Yep.
creating more opportunity for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I mean, for America, I think it's bullish.
Yeah. You think we'll see a disruption like we did last time with the ships off the coast of the U.S., like with waiting for for approvals to come in and drop off their goods? You guys remember that last time, 2020, I think.
I don't recall a person,
It
but
w- yeah, it was all the containers were off the coast because of the change in
Yeah.
tariffs.
Yeah, I remember. Was it because of tariffs or was it some COVID? At the time, there was a strike. Yeah, let me pull that up while we.
was it COVID
watch
and also
rest
the
of this.
workers?
I'm sure it's probably.
Let's play the rest of this, and I'll look into it. While it's
We
fine.
had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually, they're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough. Great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46% and much higher for certain items like cars, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left. And he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. Trade is not fair. He said, I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal, but frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. We're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full. We could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot, Eric. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing, all right? I think you better take it with you. It's not going to last very long. He's going to put it, it's going to follow you down with the wind.
All right, guys. Well, Dominic Frisby would say, beware tariffs, right? It's a short-term fix, very attractive, but the long-term consequences throughout history have always played out and inevitably actually negatively impacted the middle class, the working class, because tariffs, from Dominic Frisby's perspective, they essentially favor whatever subsidized industries are getting that protection, and then they stop innovating because they now have this protection and they become fat. And then what happens is prices go up or they don't go down, right? Because instead of having competition, which would naturally regulate the market, you now have these tariffs that prevent the consumer from finding alternative competitors. So I hope this is a short-term thing, but Dominic Frisby says there's no such thing as a short-term tariff. Whenever they're implemented, they stay.
Yeah. Well, tariffs have been around, but I also think it's baked in the cake that nothing stops the train no matter what. This is a different way of dealing with a problem that someone else was treating differently. But I don't think, regardless of which way it gets treated, I think the outcome is inevitable, and the money printer will continue to go up. Things will continue to go get more expensive. There's no way around it. No matter what the tariff policy or anything, inflation is going to continue to happen.
How do you think it'll affect our federal income tax? Because hasn't there been talk about tariffs potentially replacing federal income tax?
I mean, well, if you think of tariffs just in general, it's like, again, these are just people selling stuff into America, and they can do it at such a low rate, so the profit margin is so huge, and it's so cheap for them to build over there compared to here. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, so if they have to start paying more to trade with us, all of a sudden America is going to make more money because they want to trade with us. If they don't trade with us, they can't make the money because we are the biggest economy.
Right, the biggest consuming
economy. So they want us, like, right? And it's just like, so, and basically they're going to feel inflation right away because their value just got cut in half, right? Their currency value literally is about to get, they're about to hit inflation quick.
Yeah.
Right. But we're also hitting inflation. So they're inflating into the US dollar, but we're also inflating, and now we're inflating into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin inevitably is going to continue to get worth more and more and more. And there's a lot of people that, like Dominic Frisby's probably saying, the middle class typically don't own assets. They don't own something that's going to be worth more in the future. They're just getting by, right? So, and that's why everyone needs to own something that, they need to have a plan, because this is inevitable. So, like, to me, I think Bitcoin is that plan. And that's how I view it. And the people that have Bitcoin, they're not going to suffer because their asset is outside of this tariff policy, and they're not middle classes, they're gonna get fucked, and they always gonna get fucked. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're making a good point, right? Right now, middle class in America is getting fleeced, and it's been this way for many decades now. So something needs to be done, and this is a quick, aggressive approach to hopefully give our economy a resurgence, because now these manufacturers and whatnot are gonna not instantly automatically outsource and essentially manufacture everything overseas, but are incentivized to have production here, which creates jobs, which hopefully will have an impact in the American economy, a positive impact. But we are going to feel the pain. Prices are going to go up short term.
They're going to continue to go up no matter what, short term, long term. I don't care. They're going up.
There's likely going to be a significant spike in consumer goods just because that manufacturing has been so heavily outsourced, right? So that's something that people are not going to be happy about, but there has to be short-term pain in order to have the long-term gain. And we've kicked this can down the road for far too long, right? So Bitcoin, once again, what is the underlying message here? We have seen the
opt out with Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Like, Bitcoin is an opportunity for everyone in this world to own, no matter where you live. You can own, like, if you lived in another country, you can't own U.S. real estate. Like, you're limited in opportunity. You may not even have a bank account, and these are all things that so Bitcoin means something for someone different in every part of the country. Like, when you come across someone that likes Bitcoin because it's an investment, versus when you come across someone that needs Bitcoin just to survive and be able to, and it gives them hope. Like, it's the same thing but treated and used differently. So it's a really cool, like, when you hear those stories about people that are now, I have a bank account, I can hold something that's going to appreciate in value, I can adopt a low time preference, so I can have something to look forward to in the future. They didn't have that before.
Hope is a big, part of, I totally agree with that hope, because a lot of people came into the space for the hope to make more money. They saw people get rich overnight, and they came in hoping for that. Yeah. So there's that part of it. I think.
Some people are hoping to get rich, right? Yeah. But some people are just hoping to be able to have something to look forward to.
Right.
So we're all different. And as America, because we have the currency that we have, and we have the world currency, and we sit from such a position of privilege.
Right.
The way we look at Bitcoin couldn't be more different than somebody in Africa who's literally using Bitcoin on an old phone. They can text message Bitcoin. And before that, they didn't have a bank. So where did they keep their savings? Oh, they kept it at their house. What savings are you even talking about? I have to spend everything as soon as I make it. So they're not, like, everything is such a short time preference that they can't, it doesn't allow them to build anything. So Bitcoin now has the opportunity to own the same thing an American owns or anyone else in the world. And it also allows them to transact with each other. So it's like to them, Bitcoin is a lot more than it is to us. But eventually it is going to be that for everyone.
They're in the game now. Like
Yeah.
they're able to transact, exchange value.
They're using Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Just use it. Right? Like, I mean,
And also for crowdfunding, it makes it possible for them to on the crypto Twitter or crypto X, whatever you want to call it. It makes it easier for to come across a lot of people, a big group of people,
Yeah.
and fundraise this idea that you might have with resources that are in your country that you
fundraise, but also if you think about, they're allowed to send money to anyone, like the Human Rights Foundation. They can get money anywhere using Bitcoin because you can't stop it.
Right.
So now that is also that's also a cool thing. And then you think about remittances, right? The countries like, how much it costs to send money to another country?
cost, how long it takes,
How
how
the
many people in
convenience-
between,
Yeah, how many exactly?
the process, the computer systems it has to go through.
And on top of that, they have to have those processes, but they have to have someone handle those processes. They have buildings they have to pay for. They have employees they have to pay for. So that cost, they have an operating cost. We're paying that operating cost so they can pay their families because it's a business. Bitcoin circumvents that entire thing, allows you to get the same thing done for a fraction of the cost.
No intermediary.
No
process.
intermediary. And they can now, you can literally, if I wanted to via Strike, you could send me Bitcoin and I could receive it as US dollars and I don't have to do anything. I just set it up that way.
And we're starting to see a lot more applications being built into these big, name techs like the Salesforces of the world. We're starting to see crypto currencies being, like you just said, exchange sent in one form, received in another.
Yeah, of course, because it's it's insane. But
It's
people
changing the world.
It
and
is
I'm
changing the
excited.
world, and that's the cool thing. Like you see, El Salvador, how much it's changed them just from adopting, and it's on the macro levels, but also the micro levels. Look at the companies that have adopted a Bitcoin standard, like MicroStrategy. They went from basically a zombie company, just eventually just gonna fade away, and they completely changed their outlook for the rest of their for the future because they adopted a Bitcoin strategy.
I think it brings this new energy, this new hope, like you were talking about before,
Yeah.
into places like that where
Yeah, because everyone can buy Bitcoin. Everyone can buy Bitcoin. That means they can buy the most scarcest. The only thing you can't buy is time.
right.
But if I can buy and I can own the second scarcest asset ever, and because I own that asset, I own something of value. Oh, and it's going to continue to get more valuable. So I now can have hope that in the future that what I'm sacrificing right now for is going to be able to buy me more. And when we're used to living in the complete opposite, where if I don't spend right now, in the future it's just going to cost me more. So I just need to spend right now. I'll even go in debt spending, and so there's good debt and bad debt, right? You can use good debt to to get Bitcoin. Obviously, don't lever up and get fucked. But there's good debt and bad debt. What are you buying with that debt? And it's the fiat mindset.
How are you leveraging it?
Yeah.
I think I've said it before, but it's changing the way we see value. It's not just the monetary. Now you just touched on it you explained it well. The way that we interpret value is changing so fast, and I think people are going to have a whole nother view in 20, 10, 30 years or whatever on what value is.
Yeah.
We're going to see it more as time versus a monetary,
It's the whole intrinsic versus objective argument. Like people before the internet, right? Everything had intrinsic value. It had because it was different. There was no internet, or it was value is subjective, or everything. So
right.
it's not so it's gold is worth something because I gave it to her at but who are you? So that experience is not important to me. But if you were like Michael Jordan and you had that experience wearing that gold chain, this is Tupac Shakur's gold chain that he wore when he passed away, or something like that, that has value. It doesn't have value because it's a gold necklace that you got, or that was what you were wearing because you got engaged. Who are you? And not everyone's going to find that. So value is, it's very subjective. That intrinsic value, it doesn't mean something to somebody else.
Right. And now us where we are today, it allows us for hope in the future. So if we decide to have children, doing something that involves implementing Bitcoin today may have they'll see value in a whole different way and potentially thank us for it later.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's doing stuff now that your future self will thank you for. It's planning for your future. If you don't plan for your future, not just financially, but health,
Right.
if you don't eat well, What are the repercussions down the road?
Mental health,
and
physical,
all,
emotional, spiritual.
yeah, and also physical, right? Like, are you going to be healthy enough to live long, or are you, or you're going to live and you're not going to have an enjoyable life because you're always in pain, and you're in this pain, and you get stuck in that rat wheel of not changing, right, and just staying with what was I've been doing because I've been doing it, and I don't take care of my health, but I'm still alive. But you like have a bad, like, you know, people that like are 80 years old, especially here in Naples, right? How many times have you seen someone that's 80 or 90 years old, and then you meet someone else that's 80 or 90 years old, and their entire life is different? One can walk, one is
Sure.
excited, and the others. But what do you think the difference in their lifestyles were?
What they ate, how
Like,
they spent their time.
Yeah, their habits, their routines, who they are, what made them them. And a lot of those times, like you said, like they work out, they eat well, they took care of their health, and now they're in being able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Bitcoin is taking care of your money. So you can have like that same hope to look forward to. Hey, I'm eating a steak today. I'm not going to go eat Chick-fil-A. I'm not going to go to these fast food restaurants because I know that those are going to lead to a bad health outcome. And it's going to be easy sometimes and convenient. That's why they're called convenience stores or fast food. Everything is convenient. And usually the quick way, like when people ask me about Bitcoin, well, as long as you know you're not in it to make a quick buck, it's not about that. Like
Right.
it's if you think you're gonna get Bitcoin just to get rich like in a week, like you're in it for the wrong reasons.
You're gambling.
You're gambling. That mindset's gonna get you wrecked, and it's gonna actually in the long term probably hurt you because you're gonna sell it at the wrong time,
Yep.
and you're gonna buy back in at the wrong time, and you're gonna continue to be chasing these gains and immediate gratification. And instead, if you adopt a long term preference, so if someone asks me about Bitcoin, it's like it's not about tomorrow, it's not about next week. Treat Bitcoin like your 401k, because if your Bitcoin, it's like that's the outlook you should have. It's a low time preference. But imagine if you could access your 401k instantly without having to ask for permission.
Trade it, transfer it, leverage, collateralize
Because
it.
we're giving, like, at the end of the day, a 401k, they're able to give us money on our 401k. What are we paying for? Like, why are they doing that? That means they're making money with
Oh,
our
sure.
money.
Me-
So why not we
me-
just
me-
cut out the middleman? And Bitcoin's also a solve for that as well. It's so many different things. It's gotten its tentacles in like so many different arenas.
And it's going to continue
Yeah.
to put its tentacles
Of course,
in.
because the money's fucked. And then we realize as Bitcoiners, like if you fix the money, you're going to fix the world. And a lot of these things will be fixed. It may not make sense right now. I was talking to somebody earlier, and I was like, I don't know if you know, but there's a huge crossover between the Bitcoin community, between like just Bitcoin and like health. Like there's a very, like people that are into Bitcoin usually, and most of the time, are very aware of their health. And they're very in tune with that. And there's a lesson there, and there's a reason like why. Because it's all about time preference. And Bitcoin teaches you what your time preference is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
What about you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm excited about the ultimate change that it'll have on society.
Yeah.
The new paradigm. This relationship between our governing body and citizens, and eventually voting with your money, voting with your feet. I think we're going to see the libertarian utopia unfold because we fixed the money, the root cause of all corruption. Right? When you can, we kept talking about this at Bit Mining Disrupt. When you have a single pie and everybody wants a slice of that pie, the only way that you'll get a slice if you actually contribute real value.
Yep.
And that incentivizes people to really get good at something they enjoy. And it's a low time preference mentality, right? Because now you dedicate your life towards something honorable and something sustainable. And so what we're going to see is human flourishing. And that's, what all Bitcoiners have in common is that we want human flourishing. And when you fix the money, you have a real shot at it. Here, Trump, let's close out on this, and then we'll look at the Doge tracker just to see how far we've come since last week. But Trump says that we've been liberated today, right, from being economically oppressed by other nations. And perhaps Bitcoin is the next step, right? What are they going to do with all these savings? Nick, you mentioned, wouldn't it be something if
if they took that money that they're going to now get from these countries that they weren't getting, right? Couldn't they just technically start buying? I mean, it's a net neutral way to the taxpayer if now they get more money in than they were getting, and they use that money to buy Bitcoin. do we get taxed more because of that? I don't know like the intricacies, but from my perspective, from an outside looking in, it's like, well, that sounds like it's not gonna. We're not printing any more money. We're just bringing back more money. I don't know. Fucking
Yeah.
fine.
Well, even Cynthia Lummis, with her Bitcoin Reserve Act,
Yeah.
is mentioning how if we were to invest into that, like within, I think she said just like 5 years, we could cut our debt in half. Let me pull up the actual statement.
I mean, yeah, hypothetically, like if we buy 1,000,000 Bitcoin, right, like that, the price would, if we bought 1,000,000 Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price would be insane. So it's not going to be at one time. But in theory, if we buy 1,000,000 Bitcoin, everyone else is going to have to play ball or else they're going to be left behind. And then if that Bitcoin appreciates by like, if it goes up 100%, 200%, whatever that is, our debt burden compared to the Bitcoin value is going to be lower because the Bitcoin is going to outpace that money is now putting towards something that's going to help pay the debt down or be valued against the debt.
I'm curious to see, we were talking about it before the space, but I'm curious to see what will happen with the fiat, what steps will be taken to strengthen the US dollar, because that can counteract, what
Yeah.
Bitcoin's got going on. But it's going to be exciting. It's better
At the
for
end of the
both
day,
of
there's
us.
going to be periods where the dollar gets a little stronger.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is going to be a good thing, buying power or
right,
opportunity.
and which might go against Bitcoin going up in value.
Right.
Right. But over time, the dollar is going to continue to lose value. It doesn't matter. Like in the meantime, there might be periods where it's kind of like different.
Yeah.
But over time, the dollar's value is going to continue to get less and less and less. It's just part of fiat money. There's no way around it. We can try to continue to kick the can down the road. And all that means is that the dollar's losing value. So we're going to continue kicking the can down the road, trying to figure out ways to fight it. But it's still just kicking the can down the road. So it's like prolonging the like huge, like what Larry, like the big print. But it's still little prints compounded over time. They still amount to a big print. So the dollar is going to continue to get weaker. But I mean, there'll be different periods, though. It'll go back and forth. But over time, in the long time preference, the dollar is going to continue to get worth less and less and less. Like if you told me right now the Federal Reserve would never print another dollar, right? That's the only way.
Right.
Like, but that's not like, no, it's not going to happen. They're probably going to have another 2 or 3 printing this year at least. And it's like, oh, Trump's in office. They're not supposed to do that. It's like, it's baked into the cake, whoever's in office. But what are they spending that money on? That's the part. We don't, like Doge, for example, we don't want to be spending money on a bunch of bullshit. But if we can make the government more efficiency, meaning they spent that money on things that brought us back things more and just made us more efficient because it's a business, we should treat our country like a successful business, not a business that wants to go out of business, like everything's for sale. That's like the Biden administration. Anybody come in here, everything is for sale, everything must go. Like we're not begging, we shouldn't be begging people to come here. We don't need to be begging people. People, like there's a, being America, like we should have pride in like what we have accomplished and everybody wants to live here. But it's like that's not how the world operates. Like we can't just go live in Colombia. We can't just go. There's a process. So
Yeah,
it's like
something worth protecting, right? You typically put a fence around your house because you find your house and your property valuable, and you want to protect it from, whatever invasion might, if it's an animal,
the
right?
invasion,
whatever it might be, you want to keep your rose garden intact, right? And with the country's border, essentially what you're saying is we value what's inside, and that's not saying nobody can come in. It's just that we want to know whoever comes in also values what's inside. Right?
Yeah, I mean, everything must not, like, we're not going out of business. But we were running our country like a business that was going out of business. Like we needed more people here. Like we needed you to come here. You need to come here. You need to come here. You need to anyone come. You need to.
Elon made it clear it was just to have a uniparty.
Of
right?
course,
to essentially have the socialist
political
new
thing.
one world government essentially. And we'll see, because it seems like we dodged that.
Well, yeah, everyone noticed that agenda.
By an inch.
Everyone noticed that agenda. Like
I mean,
people voted against it.
Right, correct. But I honestly think that they were planning on stealing the election.
Of course,
once
they didn't.
more, but they knew that if they tried this time, because how much attention Elon had brought to the issue, right, with the whole election integrity commission and all this stuff, there was going to be a revolution if they had tried to steal it again. And I was one of those people that was ready that night to go fight if they tried to pull it off.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely believe that this was our last opportunity to try to preserve this republic that we supposedly have, right? But here is Cynthia Lummis discussing how this Bitcoin reserve could essentially cut our debt in half. And let's hear it from her.
Let's talk a little bit about the world reserve currency status of the US dollar, because so many people are afraid that we might be losing that. The stable coins, I've heard them talked about as being the thing that will allow us to maintain and extend dollar dominance. Why is it important to you that the US dollar remains the global reserve currency? There are some people who feel like Bitcoin should just be the standard. What do you say?
Well, from where I sit at this point in time, and I look back over the years when Great Britain was the world reserve currency, when they gave up that status to us, it had a massive negative economic impact on Great Britain for quite some time. The U.S. dollar has been described, and I...
This is a fascinating tidbit, but it's not the one I was looking for. Let's see if she says it in the beginning here.
It still allows us, at the end of 20 years, to take 1 million Bitcoin and reduce the debt by half.
Yeah.
And if you went with something more aggressive, you could literally eliminate the debt.
Why are we not doing this?
Well, I
'Cause
mean,
it's
well,
risky.
it's not that. I think
No,
we
no, I'm
are.
just-
I think we are in the process of doing it. I think
Ponzi.
we are just in a recency time bias, meaning we want everything now and we need it now. And when we don't get it exactly now because it makes sense and we're working, even though we're working to it, we just feel like we're not doing it. Like people didn't think he was going to sign the executive order about Bitcoin. People thought like because he didn't do it on day one, was going to free Ross. Right, because but things take time. There's so much things out there, but like, what's important to you? You're expecting them to do it right away, and like, it's like, all right, it passed into law, or the executive order was signed, whatever it may have been, but now it has to get implemented. It can't get started. You can't start implementing something until like there's just things that have to take care of itself or things to get done, which is why like I've never been a fan of like 4-year terms because it's like we're in a constant game. Like you have 2 years to really do anything, and if you don't like, and then after that you're trying to get reelected or get someone else so you can continue. It's like it's not a long enough time, I think. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument for that. 4 years.
Every 4 years we change. Imagine like your CEO of your company, every 4 years of the CEO of Apple changed, or we got to vote on like the CEO. Like it's just like, dude, like we're changing our entire philosophy every 4 years. And like and the country's getting torn apart now with these elections every 4 years. And 4 years as you get older doesn't seem as much time. When you're young, 4 years, like that's the difference between high school, middle school, and elementary, right? But now it's like 4 years, oh, not a big deal. It's not that much time. It's not that much time. But it's like every time that happens,
It's fast. It goes
people start like, people just turn into different, and it's like, it's so frequent now. Like if and then it's like leading up to the election. So it's really going like 6 out of 8 years, are just so heavy.
And it used to work because
There was no
the
internet.
parties, but the parties weren't so starkly like contrasted, right? They had quite a few fundamental things in common, which the American people agreed with. And so there wasn't this polar opposite every
It
4
wasn't as
years.
big of a divide.
Right. So therefore, they could pass a baton and carry on with the mission of essentially preserving the American economy and this American experiment, which is supposed to be, like you said, a hard fork, hard copy of the Constitution, not any
The original.
exactly the original. But with each political, movement that we've seen, there's been more and more lobbying, and
Every 4 years, there's another fork to the
Right.
Constitution, right?
It's no longer now. We don't have this core code base of the Constitution at the center anymore. There's literally judges in New York talking about how the Constitution hasn't, the First Amendment doesn't have a place in their courtroom, right? Like this is absurd. You would never think of hearing those words out of a judge's mouth, but here we are today. It's we've drifted, but now hopefully with legislation, and this is why human error, we have to remove the potential for that, and we're always going to see this happen whenever there's a central figure. It inevitably gets corrupted.
Yeah.
And so what we need to implement is this Bitcoin ethos of governance, right? Where there's a DAO or some sort of a decentralized smart contract based, voting mechanism, and also sunset clauses on laws and all that. So we're moving in the right direction. Our generation, I think, is going to cement these new,
Yeah,
the-
it's
the-
not going to be
these
like
new
it's not
rails.
going to take it's not going to be an immediate impact, which just makes it like the thing like him Trump doing this in such a later age of his life and with the money he has, like he knows he's not going to reap the benefits of his policies.
Right,
Like,
but he's got Barron, he's got kids, right?
yeah, he's got kids. He's doing like he's also in a way expressing the low time preference ethos by doing stuff that's going to help the next generation, and it's gonna might hurt a little bit his generation. And it's not easy to hurt people, but sometimes you have to like do something that's not perfect for someone to do the better for everyone. And it's gonna like for some people, and maybe it's the middle class people like myself that might we might hurt us more. We'll see. But I think if we kept going the same way, like what would have happened? Like if like Biden would or Kamala would have won, like where would we be today? Like what would like that's a scary thought, and we're not living in that reality. We're not living in that timeline. So it's interesting. You want to end there, Paul?
Yeah, let's take a look at the Doge. Well, actually, let's hear this 26-second clip here just to end on this Liberation Day note.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and well. My fellow Americans, this is
Miwa.
Wow. Yeah.
Miwa.
Okay, well, no, here someone said not one single person who paid. Okay, yeah, all this good stuff, but let's have some arrests. Let's have some accountability. Doge has revealed extensive fraud, yet we haven't seen any arrests, right? I'm all for, fixing the economy and all that stuff, but unless we remove the rot, right, the cancer, this is just going to keep happening. So let's see what happens here. I heard
Again, those
yesterday.
things- but again, like you find the fraud, right? And from like our perspective, why haven't they been arrested yet? It's like, well, you have to build a fucking case. We just found the fraud, and there's a lot of it. So which one? Like, it's not something that's going to happen immediately. Again, we have to you have to let things play out. And it's interesting, like in a year from now, right? Or like you have to like our judicial system is so fucked. I don't know if you've ever sued somebody or been sued or taken anyone to court. It is so much easier to be a criminal than it is to be on the right side. Like it is insane. You could do something wrong. You have 2 years. You could steal money from someone, basically use it for 2 years. Not like you get slapped on the wrist. It's such a bullshit. Like, it's insane, and things get kicked down the can. So it's like,
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Our system was never designed to be completely, taken advantage of in this way. But the, um, the right. They say the wheel of justice grinds slowly but finely, or something, right? So eventually,
let's look in a year from now, maybe even 2 years from now. If at that point, like no arrests have happened or things haven't started to change, but like, what they were doing, was it illegal or was it fraud? Like, was it like legal fraud that they were doing, or was it illegal fraud? Right?
Well,
It seems like it was legal fraud, but it was still fraud. So it's like, all right, we can stop the fraud, but technically what they did wasn't illegal. It was not right, but it was like there was $140 billion of fraud they've already found, right? But a lot of these things were government agencies, so it was a legal thing they were doing, but it was like fraud because they shouldn't be doing in the beginning, and they were like it was just bullshit.
Where was it at last week? 130?
I remember a couple weeks ago it was at 105.
Yeah.
Last time I was here.
man, we'll have to go back in the Wayback Machine.
I think it was 105, then 110, 115, and 130, 140.
It was like 130 about a week ago.
About a week ago.
We're making steady progress. Let's ape into Bitcoin with all this money. Hopefully right this ship. Guys, it's been fun. Nick, if you want to close us out.
We're about to run away from the runway. Have a good rest of your day.
Hey, one more thing, guys.
That part.
We have a Bitcoin meetup here in Southwest Florida.
Oh, that's right. That's tonight, right?
That's tonight.
joining
Larry Lepard today. That's huge. Dude, Larry's the best. He's a goat. Big print book that
The
just came
man.
out.
Join us in an hour.
That's right. We'll be live streaming from Protocol Pulse HQ. That is our media umbrella main channel. You can watch the stream there. If you're in Southwest Florida, jump in your car right now and get to Naples and see us in real life. It's been fun, guys.
We're going
Take
to
it
live
easy.
stream tonight's meet?
Yes, we
Oh,
will.
nice.
Yeah.
So
All
stay
right.
tuned.
We'll see you guys Friday.